The following episode of Critical Weeb Theory was, to be honest, actually recorded a long time ago, so you might notice some things that are like, we haven't talked about that in a while. That's weird, but it's fine. This is still, honestly, one of my favorite conversations we've ever had on here, so I hope you will enjoy, and I hope you will check out our guest, Lua Borealis. It used to be a conscious thing, but at this point it's automatic. Something that I noticed a lot is like, in anime, when there's like a guy-girl pairing, I always check to see if the girl has like darker skin than the
Me
guy.
too!
Oh, really?
Yeah!
Whoa!
I'm always thinking about that stuff.
I thought I was the only one. You did it to me twice now. But yeah, I always check. Hello. Welcome to Critical Weeb Theory. Rago's out this week, but it's okay, because we're still going to have a cool conversation. I'm here with Lua, or Professor Flowers. I don't know which one you'd rather go by, but I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Lua. I have a YouTube channel called Professor Flowers where I deconstruct media and analyze it. And that wasn't good. I shouldn't. Okay, anyways, it's fine. Okay.
That was perfectly fine. And it's really awesome to finally get to like talk to you. I was really I think I found you did your I forgot the title of the video, but it was like your video on like BreadTube and like how it handles like race and like blackness and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just like, when I saw that video, I was like, holy shit, there are more of us.
I know. When I made that video, a bunch of other people like were like, hey, I'm also here. And it was just like, what? And yeah, it's been a wild ride since then.
Yeah. And it was super nice to like, because I think this was like post, I try to, this was like earlier in like 2020, right? Or my
Yeah, it was actually not, it was like before the protests, actually.
Right, because I tend to think of things like, I guess like the arc of BreadTube. I feel like there was a time where like people were really excited about like what BreadTube could be and do, and then like slowly but surely people sort of realized that this isn't working and we need to stop doing it.
Yeah, so I remember that.
Yeah, this was like after like the whole Contra Buck Angel thing by like a couple months, and then like people were already like I don't know, I haven't watched ContraPoints in a while because of it. I don't like hate or anything, this isn't like a beef thing, but it's just like, it was just like one piece on the road to just being like, unfortunately, I don't think we can just all be like one big, happy, united online left, because there's just too many like shit actors, to be honest. Like,
yeah, no, it's like really sad.
Yeah, it is. There's like too many debate bros. There's like too many like way too online like Dengus. No, there's too many. I don't know who else is there. But we this might be a little bit of a tangent, but anyway, I just kind of wanted to introduce the kinds of things you do and say that I appreciate all of them. I loved your Rudy Giuliani thing too. That was really funny.
Thanks. Oh my gosh, thanks. Yeah, that one was just like so self-indulgent. I just was like, there's a Rudy Giuliani movie. Like, there's no way I'm not gonna make a video on this. So I'm glad you liked it.
Sure. All right, let's just jump right into it then. This will be out like a week or two after we're recording it, but at time of a recording, we're kind of going through, I think, like the aftermath of like one of the first like sort of high profile like mass shootings we had in a while since the pandemic started, which is a little depressing that the pandemic decreased the amount of mass shootings we have in this country. But it's essentially, for those that don't know, for some reason in Atlanta there was there was an individual, as far as we know, they like killed 8 people, like around 6 of them were like Asian, or of Asian descent is what they're saying. And the police refused to call it a hate crime. They said he couldn't get laid and he had a bad day.
Yeah, that was wild.
And like Joe Biden is like, yeah, you know, we don't know the motive. Let's just listen to all what these like white cops have to say.
Yeah,
when you like went out of your way to kill it, like 8 people. Okay, we know it. So we just wanted to acknowledge, first of all, just like the constant, I don't want to say like threat isn't really the right word, but just like, it's more like we're like surrounded by it. Like we're like surrounded by like white supremacy. Like we're surrounded by a kind of violence that is predicated on like the superiority of like white people over many other groups of people.
Yeah, it's like not only were these Asian people targeted, like he went to specifically Asian businesses, but even in the narrative after, it's like, well, we're afraid to call it, they're afraid to call it a hate crime at this point, even though it's clearly racially motivated. And it's just like, even in the narrative is so white supremacist, where it's like, it's not going to call racism what it is, and it's going to say that it's something else, and it's still going to like protect, it's still going to protect like this idea that there's like no racism and everything is the way it is because it's supposed to be, but it's not because of racism, which is like very white supremacist.
It's really frustrating to me because like we know that, actually like scientifically, I forgot, I don't have the exact data because it's been a while since I've looked at it, but I did an essay on this really racist manga and anime called Terraformars, and in it I kind of talked about how in media, or I guess in like the news and stuff, people have tracked like how often people bring up like mental health in shootings, and basically like the lighter your skin is, the more likely the media is going to bring up like mental health. So like we know for a fact that if this person was like black, or if the person was like, he had like a long beard, you know, and his name was like Abdul Karim or something, we know absolutely that this would not be like a sexual crime or like a bad day thing. We know absolutely that they would be calling either for more police, more people in prison, more people getting deported, blah, 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 blah. Like the fact that they're telling us like not to jump to conclusions is in and of itself like a clear sign of like protecting white supremacy.
Yeah, and also isn't saying that this is a crime because of sex. Like that seems like a much more, you know, wild conclusion than just saying like there's racial motivation in this. It's like, even if this is motivated by like sex, like I've read a couple articles about it, and it just is like, oh, he has a sex addiction. It's like, I don't understand how that's linked to murdering 8 people or shooting 8 people. But it's like even if it was like sexually related, it seems like the sexual relation would have something to do with a fetishization of Asian women, exactly, which is still racist. It's like
that's the thing. Like even if it was like an incel thing, like I've done a lot of reading on incels too, and a lot of them are also white supremacists.
Yeah,
like
surprise,
being an
surprise.
incel does not make you not a white supremacist. Actually, it makes you more likely, to be perfectly honest. Right? Like Richard Spencer has like an Asian wife. I think his wife's like Chinese or something.
Really?
And it's because
What?
And it's really interesting, but it's because they
now.
think that like white women have been like corrupted by like feminism or something, so they want like the traditional like Asian wife to be all submissive to them and shit.
Well, at least it like ties in like with white supremacy. Oh, yeah. I think I'm trying to like sorry, I'm like looking up his wife. Her name is Nina Kuprianova. That sounds maybe Russian. That's a very broad, that's a very broad generalization. But anyways, we don't have to go to
maybe it wasn't exactly Richard Spencer. I don't know. Like a lot of high profile now, or like, was it his wife specific? Okay, I definitely know. Like a lot of these high profile like neo Nazis like have like Asian wives. Regardless, there was
Like
also
even
like
Derek Chauvin's wife was Asian, and he's clearly a very racist person.
right, yeah. So it's like, even if you wanted to say that this is a sexual crime, that doesn't. First of all, yeah, that doesn't make it not like a hate crime. And finally, just statistically, like anti-Asian hate crimes have been like on the rise because we spent a year and a half blaming like coronavirus as on like a lab in Wuhan, like created by Chinese communists to destroy the American economy so that the Chinese can have world domination and blah blah. Like we did that for a year. Like, come,
Yeah,
you're gonna tell me that they're not related? The delusion, like the collective delusion that we're all like forced to engage in to like uphold white supremacy it's exhausting, but it can be kind of funny.
yeah. I mean, I feel like it's either like funny, where it's like, oh, like this is so absurd, or it's just super depressing. It's like, oh, it always strikes me as either one.
Right. That being said, we did want to acknowledge that. I think we should move on to the thing that we kind of originally wanted to talk about, and I think will sort of in a way like illuminate like the cultural side of like white supremacy when it comes to like anime, which is like what we deal with. Like, wow, this sentence is okay. I don't know if I go look up them or not. Okay, let's talk about media representation because the two are actually more related than people think. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Wait, if I say like white people, is that going to be like bad?
Oh no,
because I feel like it's generally white people who it's like, oh, I bet you didn't think that these were related, but like everyone else is like, yeah, they're related. Like everyone else, like,
say white people.
Okay.
It's okay. You don't. Yeah, we don't self-censor too much.
Okay. Whenever I make a video, I'm like, should I say white people? And then I'll be like, okay, a lot of white people. And sometimes I'm like, I should just say white people. And then I always like have this debate whenever I say stuff, because I know a lot of my audience is white too. And I'm like, I don't want to make them feel alienated. Then I'm like, but if they feel alienated by that, do I want them in my audience? And that, yeah, I'm just always debating.
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I think for like my written things, I like think about that. But for the podcast, I just say it.
Yeah.
I just say what's on my mind. But yeah, there definitely, especially like when it comes to like weebs and stuff, like a lot of the weebs don't like, a lot of them are white and a lot of them don't think like what they consume like affects anything in real life.
Yeah.
So it's like perfectly acceptable to just be like, yeah, it is you. I mean, it's not you specifically if you're not the person. Okay, see, now I'm doing it too.
But yeah, I've had that experience too. Like, I feel like a lot of, like when I watch anime, a lot of people don't really understand like the idea that white supremacy has like touched every corner of this earth, and how the fact that all these anime characters look a lot like white people, that tied in with white supremacy, that is white supremacy. And a lot of people like aren't really thinking in
like
this.
the unironic claim that like X can't be racist because it was made by Japanese people. Like, I have to deal with that. And every time it's very annoying.
Yeah, I could not, like, I just can't do that anymore. Like, I feel so like, I think one thing that I feel like really hurt by is that just like in my experience, I've had like, and this is like all online, but like I've had a lot of racism online from Asian people, and it makes me like so sad. And it's like, obviously I don't want anyone to experience racism, but I wish that like Asian people would also like understand their proximity to whiteness and like not participate in the racist ideas that the US and Western civilization just won't stop putting out. And it's like, it's just something that makes me like really sad. I don't know. I'm half Chinese, and it's just kind of like, it's just been weird because like people will just kind of like the way that like certain people have like kind of like treated me as a Black person, and then they find out that I'm like half Chinese, and for some reason that's like more humanizing in some way. So it's like, it just makes me sad to see. But I don't know if you want to put that in.
No,
there.
I mean,
kind of just rambling.
There's definitely like a really tempting, there's like a really tempting, I guess, allure of like the promise of, I'm not sure if this is a model minority necessarily, but there's definitely like a promise for a lot of like, especially like affluent and like more, I guess, like financially successful communities that are like Asian and such. Like there's definitely like a promise that like you really can be treated just like everyone else if you do all the right things, and if you sit that, like, for me, and for my, like, both of my parents are African, so I'm just like, I'm black, right? I don't know, that's bad to say, but like, just like, what I mean by that is just, I could never like it didn't matter how successful I was, like people would always like point out that I was Black. At times, sometimes I would even be like, oh well, because you're doing well in school or whatever, then like maybe you're just like only Black on the outside, which the more I think about it, the more just kind of makes me upset, but that's fine.
Yeah,
I do anime essays now, so screw you.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, I guess like for me, like the promise is like never there of like full integrate. Like what my parents would always say is just like, the only thing you can do is just like, you can just be successful on your own, and like they'll never really understand it, but you'll have yours. And it's advice. It's advice that has its applications, but like for some people, like that promise is like a lot realer, and so they really lean into, I feel like that's like one of the big reasons they really lean into like, oh, like being like afraid of Black people and like being anti-Black or whatever. I know I've been talking for a bit. Do you mind if I like go into a story?
No.
I was reminded, so I'm like, I'm pretty tall, and so I was reminded of like, I was like, from the city I'm in, I was going, I think we were like going to the airport or something, and I was with like this other girl. She was like short and kind of like, I'm not sure where she's from like ethnically, but she was like Asian. So, but like anyway, she was like talking with her parents. We're just like walking through like some random part of the city, and they're like, oh well, they're worried because like they think they're in like the bad part of the city, and I'm like,
what?
Wait, bad part? First of all, that's not how that works. Second of all, like socioeconomically, this isn't even like what you would remotely call like the bad part. But like they're still like, they still had like that idea of like there are like bad parts where like the Black people are. And she was like, she told her parents, she was like, no, don't worry, I have like a tall Black man to protect me, so it's fine. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, cool. I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, that would really bother me.
I don't think she like meant anything by it, and I think she was more like trying to get like her parents to like not worry than like throw shade or whatever. But like the fact that would work is like an indication of like just like how much more complicated this is than I think a lot of people realize.
Yeah. Like, it's not just like white people, and it's not just like people on the alt-right. It's like, I think like there's like this, everyone has a race issue like across the globe, and it looks different in different places, you know, like race doesn't function the same as it does in the US, as it does in Brazil, but it's still like comes down to like white supremacy and colonization and like Western media and all of that. Just, yeah, it's definitely more complicated, and like way more complicated and everywhere.
Yeah. So we can take a closer look at this in anime. So do you want me to do like some observations of like white supremacy in anime? Would that be helpful for you?
Sure.
Okay. So in January I did a video on this anime called like The Misfit of Demon King Academy, and it was about basically the issues that like half Japanese people face, so like either like mixed race Japanese people, and so I did a lot of like I ended up doing like a lot of like reading into like how like race sort of works in Japan, and like a big thing about it is that you kind of had already like, I guess Japan was like never like colonized. It was like under the influence of like various like European powers, and then it was occupied after World War II, right? So you have kind of like the Japanese notions of like colorist hierarchy, which sort of like already favored kind of like light skin and like certain anatomical features. And then like on top of that, you also have white supremacy. And they mix in a way that's not necessarily like white people good, everyone else bad. Like there's a lot of like nuance in terms of like what specific features are liked or disliked, what it means to be like fully Japanese or like not Japanese at all, and things like that. But like in general, the bottom line, and at least the bottom line that we can see in anime, is that like light skin and like not necessarily like white features, but like some European like features are definitely like fetishized and exoticized in Japan, and on the flip side, blackness is definitely not. Like it's definitely like there are definitely like issues with like black people, black bodies, black faces being like shown and appreciated respectfully in the same way. And like so like we were talking about earlier, it's like not it's not a contradiction to say like XYZ media made in Japan was like anti-black, because there is anti-blackness in Japan. There's anti-blackness everywhere. There's anti-blackness in Africa. I could do a whole thing about that, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. This is the part where I feel awkward, because I'm like, yeah, I agree.
So you had a point about representation and like how easy it is to find even in anime, even though it's like not made by like a white anime is like made in Japan, so it's like not made in a white country, but there's like
yeah, there's just kind of like there's been this debate for a while where it's like, are anime people white people? And you know, obviously, or not obviously, because people are debating it, but like it's made like the characters, or most of the characters in anime are meant to be Japanese people, but they still often have these European features. And like one thing that really bothers me, kind of like when you have like this debate, or like when you listen to the debate, often when I hear white people talking about it, it's like, well, like they're meant to be Japanese, so like they're just Japanese. And something that just like really bothers me that just isn't acknowledged is the fact that like that like white supremacy is just so prevalent. It's such a global issue that like you have white people being so the norm that you can go to a different country and still be able, as a white person, still be able to see people who look like you, like maybe not physically there, but like in their advertisements, you know, or like in their media that they show. Like this is like a little bit tangential, but like even in Brazil, like the people you see on TV in Brazil are going to be the people who are like white passing. And you're not going to see as many like brown people on TV, even though Brazil has so many brown people. Like I think like 60% of the majority of the population has black in them. and is mixed in some way. And it's like, but you're not on the TV, like often looks very, very white. And it's like, you go to all these different countries and it prefers lighter skin over darker skin. And then you have Japan even, where it's like, you're going to see people who look like, if you're a white person, you're going to be able to watch anime and see someone who looks like you. And even if those people aren't necessarily white, just the fact that you can like be in the world and go anywhere and feel comfortable in your own skin because you know that people are going to appreciate the way you look is just like such a privilege to me. Because to me, it's like, anytime I go somewhere, like even when I like leave the grocery store, I'm like, I always take my receipt because I don't want someone to accuse me of stealing. And I want to be able to be like, no, I have my receipt. And it's like, because I'm Black, I'm the kind of person, like people are going to perceive me in like very like derogatory ways because I'm Black. And it's like, I'm going to live with that my whole entire life. And to be able to just be white and have people not be suspicious of you and have people see you as the norm and to have people, you know, just see you as like a good person and to be able to go anywhere in the world and see people that look like you is just like such a privilege. And it just bothers me that like when people are talking about, you know, do people in anime look white or stuff like that? Like it just really bothers me that that's not acknowledged oftentimes when I'm listening to that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to address a couple of common like reactionary talking points to this. Just to be honest, more out of force of habit than anything else. So there's so first of all, are anime characters white or Japanese? So they're supposed to be Japanese most of the time. Like we can get that out of the way, but like that doesn't solve that actually doesn't solve anything. Right? No, it literally doesn't solve anything. For a couple of reasons. First of all, if you look at like characters that are like not supposed to be Japanese, a lot of the time most of the time foreigners in anime are like white. And see, the thing is, you can actually look up like the immigration demographics of Japan, and if you look them up, you'll find that most of the immigrants in Japan are like not white. Most of them are Chinese, Vietnamese, Filipino, Korean. We have like U.S. immigrants. There's actually a fair number of Brazilian immigrants and so on and so forth. So there's still like a default to like white people, like when anime need non-Japanese people. And that's the first thing. And the second thing is that like not every anime is set in Japan. There's a lot of I'm doing a whole thing on isekai. All of those are set in like fantasy worlds. So why is it that when we leave the planet and go to another world, they're all like based off of medieval Europe, in which all of the girls look extremely European, and all of the men have like European names and like light skin and like blonde hair? Like there is a preference towards whiteness. And I think the final thing, and something that I think you'll be able to go into more, is that like even if they're not supposed to be white, if you take especially like someone like the old school sort of anime, like you take like Sailor Moon, you take Naruto and things like that, if you're like a kid and you're just like watching the dub of like Naruto, it may not really occur to you as an American that like all the people on the screen are like, or like Sailor Moon especially, because they like change all their names to English names, right? Like you don't get Yusaki, you get Serena, right? And like the main character that is like blonde and stuff. So like if you're white, even if
I just thought her name was Serena this whole time.
Yeah, no, her name's Usagi. They changed it.
I actually had no idea. I was like, what?
Yeah. So like, but like that's the thing, right? That's actually like exactly the point. Because like if you're like a white girl just watching Sailor Moon and you don't know like the sociocultural context around Sailor Moon, you'll just think, oh cool, a girl who's just like me, even though she's not really like white. But if you're Black, it doesn't matter what her name is. That's definitely not you.
Yeah.
Right? So there's just so many more dimensions to this than other than like, I see like, I forgot who it was exactly, but there was like some like high profile black person who was like, I don't really feel anime too much because like all the characters look white. And like a whole bunch of people jumped on that. I wish I remembered who it was, saying like, well, no, they're not white, they're like Japanese. But it's like, well, no, you're not like addressing like the fundamental issue that's at play here.
Yeah. I think also for me, like one of the issue with having just like this representation where it's like these people look very white is like, and maybe in Japan it's not as big of a deal because in Japan people maybe not feel represented in anime, but they're going to feel represented in other areas in life, and there's other like forms of media that they're represented in. But like in the US, for example, like, yeah, if you're an Asian person, like if you're a Japanese person and you're like watching anime, and like you still might not necessarily feel represented in a way because there's a lot of characters. You still may be watching an anime, and even though everyone's Japanese, you're not necessarily going to see someone who looks like you. And I think like the reason why this is also such a big deal, because I think a lot of people are like, well, why does it matter? Like it's just it's just like a show, and it's like, I don't like, a lot of people like don't understand like why people want representation. People don't understand, of course, have had representation. And it's like, well, all these stories that you're watching are very, very humanizing. And you're like watching these stories where you're like, just like, like my favorite animes are the ones that have changed me. And they're like these really incredible stories. And that's why I like anime. And you're able to like really empathize with these people. And there's a way where that kind of like carries over into like our day-to-day lives. Like if you see someone who looks like someone you loved in a movie, you're going to end up, feeling kind of, you're going to end up feeling like you have like kind of like an affinity to that person. And it's like, and if you never get that for like Black people or even Asian people, like if you're not getting to see those people, then it's like every time you see an Asian person or Black person, I think this is why people feel so uncomfortable. Like I've met so many white people who feel uncomfortable around me because I'm Black, and like I'm not used to hanging out with Black people.
Yeah, I definitely know this. Like I don't want to interrupt you, but just as an aside, like we can tell when you're not comfortable around us. It's really obvious.
Yeah.
Like okay, please continue.
I mean, so many Black people have had that experience, and it's like, honestly, if there was just like media that humanized us, it wouldn't be so strange, because like I don't feel uncomfortable. I mean, I do feel uncomfortable around white people in the sense that I know a lot of white people have an issue with racism that's unexamined, because a lot of white people think that racism is, just being an alt-righter, and there's like a lot of systemic issues that people have unexamined, so I'm like waiting for it to come up. But in general, like I don't feel like weird, not weird in the sense that a lot of white people feel around me. And that's because like, no matter where you go, white culture is everywhere. And that's, again, very humanizing to white people. But you don't have Black culture everywhere. Or when it is, it's going to be like in this way where it's like going to be like gangster rap, which was like just really promoted to try to sell to like white teenage guys in the suburbs. It's like, that's not even something that like Black people really, even though like gangster rap has Black people in it, it's not something that like Black people really had that much control over, because at the end of the day, people just wanted to market it to white kids. So it's like, media has like a huge ability to be able to humanize us. And it's just really frustrating that even with anime, something where it's like created by Japanese people, if you're a Japanese American, like you still probably won't feel all that represented in anime, or at least not when you like want to see someone who looks like you. That might be, or I mean, there are some characters who definitely do look Japanese. But
it really
you
depends
might feel
on like what you're watching.
Yeah, it does depend on what you're watching, but I do think it's interesting that you could watch an anime where everyone in there is Japanese, and you could be a Japanese person watching it and not see someone who looks like you. And if you're a Japanese American, again, like if you're in Japan, maybe it's not as big of a deal because you have so much representation. But if you're a Japanese American, that's just really disappointing. And also as a Black person, it's just really disappointing to not like have any representation, and then like basically have people treat me based on like the 5 stereotypes they know and just be like really confused. It's like, yeah.
It's there's definitely a problem with like even when all the characters are Japanese, you get a situation where okay, so I'm gonna say a little bit of a cliche, but I do mean it, like unrealistic like standards of like what, even if this like person is Japanese, what the person is like trying to be. So like people with like really 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 fair skin with like really like sexualized proportions, so on and so forth, that sort of make it harder to like see yourself in a show. Something that it used to be a conscious thing, but at this point it's automatic. Something that I noticed a lot is like in anime, when there's like a guy-girl pairing, I always check to see if the girl has like darker skin than the
Me
guy.
too!
Oh, really?
Yeah!
Whoa!
I'm always thinking about that stuff.
I thought I was the only one. You did it to me twice now. But yeah, I always check. And I'm never wrong.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's something that like really bothers me. Like, this is like a little bit ranty. I don't know. Like, there's just like all this stuff with like colorism and stuff like that Black people have to deal with. So it's like, I mean, obviously that's a thing in Japan too. I think it's like coming from different places, but like the way that like Japanese people really value lighter skin, but like, even in the Black community, like it just really bothers me how like if someone's supposed to be pretty, like they're gonna have lighter skin. Like the movie's like, this is the beautiful person in the movie, and then it's like they have lighter skin, and it's something that it just really bothers me.
Yeah, no, but it does too, because it's like even when there are like anime with like darker skinned women in them, which I do appreciate, like how many times do they end up being like, you know, like the love interest or something like that?
Yeah, there was literally one manga that I can think of, and it's actually really good. It's called Eden, It's an Endless World, and the main love interest is Latinx, and she has like brown skin, and I'm like, what? Because that just never happens. Like, I'm like, what?
I'm looking this up because I've never read it.
It's really good. It was never made into an anime, but it's a really good manga, and like the artwork is beautiful, and yeah.
See, the joke on here is that I don't read. Ragava is the one that reads. So unfortunately, they're not here to be the one that reads.
Yeah.
But no, it's okay.
You should still check it out.
I will definitely check it out. Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, I'm just like, it does get to the point where you just sort of, you like look for what you can get. And then whenever you get like a character that is like, so the anime that we're all keeping up with this season's like Wonder Egg Priority, and they have
I haven't watched it yet.
Nehru. Yeah, it's like not over yet. So we're like 10 out of 12 episodes, I think. So there's one girl, Nehru, and she's I can, since we're also in a chat, I can just send it to you. But Nehru is at least part Black from her appearance.
Yay.
And I've had a lot of hope for her. I'm trying to find a good. Why is there no good picture of her? Wait, no, all of these are awful. Wait, no, I just want Nehru like alone. Okay.
I bet there's no good pictures because she's Black. I'm just saying.
True. Okay. I don't think she's actually trans, but this is one of her in a trans background. There are other characters in Wonder Egg Priority that are trans. But yeah, I had really high hopes because there was like an episode where they kind of mentioned that people didn't like her hair because it was like coarser or whatever. So I was hoping they would maybe like dissect that a little bit. But then
could you not tease us with that? Jeez.
Yeah, like they were like, it's an issue. Like some people face the issue of texturism, and I was like, cool. Do you have anything to say about that? And then Wonder Egg Priority was like, no, not really. And I just kind of deflated a little. I was like, oh, okay. But I mean, Wonder Egg Priority is still really, really good. I just, it was there. You had your chance. Mm-hmm. I would have appreciated. To the contrary, there's this other dude from Fire Force. His name's Montgomery Ogun, and I'll have pictures in the YouTube for sure. And Fire Force is like, I don't think it's very good, but this dude got like 2 episodes of him just being like completely badass, like one of the coolest characters in the show. And I can't hate Fire Force now. Like, even though it's kind of sexist, and I do hate it for being sexist. Let me make it clear. It's not acceptable to be sexist. It's kind of sexist, and blah, blah, blah. But I have to, like, appreciate it a little bit for at least, like, giving us, like, in those couple of episodes, it treated, like, a black character the way that, like, white and, like, light-skinned Japanese characters are, like, treated by default. Whoa. If not for that little bit, right? And I have to appreciate it, until they come up with like better like dark skin and black characters. I have to like shout out Fire Force for actually like following through on that.
Yeah.
So you just get into like this situation where you're kind of like settling for what you have, and it's like really frustrating. It doesn't have to be that way. I don't think anyone's saying like I want anime to have as many black characters as like, I don't know, like media from where there are more black people, like here in the United States or like in sub-Saharan Africa or something, but could definitely use more, especially if anime is going to be like a more global enterprise, especially if a lot of people are going to like primarily consume anime as their entertainment. We could use a lot more.
I mean, if I ever like make a graphic novel, it's just going to be all black people, and I'm not even going to like explain why. It's just going to be, that's going to be it.
Yeah, like the most bullshit thing that I hear is when people say like, well, dark skinned characters just don't work with like the anime style or whatever. It's like, no, they do. We're pretty. What? What
yeah. Are you talking about? Oh my gosh. Yeah, like the anime, like the community, like whenever someone cosplays and people are like, you can't do that, or like they'll just be like, oh, like this character looks so much uglier as a black person, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, oh my gosh. Chill out?
Oh, the best is anime is supposed to be a fantasy where it's free from politics.
Oh gosh. I saw that.
So you use anime to escape from black people?
Yeah, I was like, what the heck? Like, okay. Oh my gosh. The fact that people just say that.
Move on. Yeah.
And they think that's okay. And they didn't even double check that,
Honestly, no. This is why I make fun of people. I think some people need to be made fun of so they understand that what they're doing is why.
Yeah.
Like, if you roll up to me with a take like that, that gets quote tweeted, it gets put on Twitter, I call you a cracker or something. We move on, we have fun. But yeah, it like, I'm not sure if I had anything else to say, but like, it's, oh yeah, I did. So, there's the whole, I don't know if you remember Blacktober, I think it was. But basically, like every October, like artists like do like black versions of like various popular like light skinned characters.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, like this October was the first time I had actually like heard about it and kept up with it. And at first I was like, okay, it's just artists drawing stuff. But then I saw like how many white people it like pissed off. Right? All the takes of being like this is racist because you're like changing a character, why don't you make your own, blah blah blah, it's uncomfortable and this and that, and like all the polemics and like the 100 thing tweet threads. And then there were even like some people were like, it offends Japanese people because you're saying that we have to be black to be beautiful or whatever such bullshit.
What?
And I was like, okay, I've only had Blacktober for like 2 weeks, but I aggressively stan Blacktober simply because it pisses off all the right. Like whenever I see a video that's like blackwashing is racist and should stop, I'm like, that's another character that we should blackwash.
There's videos on that?
Yeah, I got
wow.
I got, because I messed up my recommends a while ago, and so sometimes I get like fucking chuddy shit in my YouTube feed. I'm like, please keep this away.
I know, whenever I make a video and I'm like dissing something, my my suggestions get all messed up. It's like, oh, Rudy Giuliani, you want to learn more about him? I'm like, no thanks, nope. So I gotta go incognito sometimes.
Yeah, you really gotta. Sometimes I get lazy, I forget, and then, or I'm on my phone, and then and then it gets all messed up. But yeah, it's like, I think the fact that so many people get upset by seeing like characters that they like as darker skin, and then they start asking questions like, well, why can't I take a darker skin and make them lighter, huh? Why is that racist? Like, it proves like the fact that we need more, actually. Both of like fan art, we need more cosplay, we need more like characters in things that look more like us.
Yeah, and it just speaks to this like issue also of just like white supremacy, because like you would never have white people like telling other white people that they can't cosplay as someone. And it's like, it's just, or they, you know, like, it's just like so, I don't know, it just speaks so much to the world that we live in. And it's really frustrating because people think that's the norm to like see a black person cosplay as someone who's not black, and then, or like see artwork of someone who's not black but drawn in a black way because there's a lack of representation, and to see that and then just like be disgusted is like speaks so much to the white supremacy that we live in, and that just being like the norm, like the fact that that's people's like visceral reaction, you know, it's like, why do you hate us so much? Why do we disgust you? Like, it's those kind of things that just really just kind of like eat at me on a daily basis.
Right. I think to bring it back to where we started this conversation, we were sort of asking like, are anime characters, are they Japanese or are they white? And we said, well, I said anyway, that well, they're supposed to be Japanese, right? But you bring up an interesting point that like white people can cosplay characters that are supposed to be Japanese and no one bats an eye, even though technically you are changing the canonical race of the character. But when black people do the same thing, suddenly it's like, well, you don't look like her, you don't look like him, it's not accurate, blah, blah, blah. This and that, right? So yeah. we can maybe like expand like our definition of like anime characters or like Japanese to be like, they're Japanese in a way that is like permissive of like white insertion, like white self-insertion, right? They're like, they're Japanese, but they can also be white if we needed to. Whereas they absolutely cannot be black, right? They cannot be any of these other like anyone else with like darker skin.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting to me is like in anime, when there's those episodes like where a foreigner does come, they look the same. It's like, whoa, you're from America, and they're like, hey, and they're like blonde hair, blue eyes, and they look the same as like the Japanese people. It's like
they do visibly look really similar.
It's like, but that says so much about like, again, like the fact, I think it says a lot, because I think like Japanese people can like see themselves in white people, and there's something that's very humanizing about that. And at the same time, like that kind of like humanization, to be able to see yourself in someone else, that's not happening for Black people. Like people, the discomfort that I bring up that people have around Black people is because there's not that humanization element. People really think that because I have dark skin, that there's like something super fundamentally different about me other than, you know, just like the color of my skin. And it's like, it's interesting because like with Japan and the US, like there's different cultures, there's fundamental differences in that way, but it's very like people are excited to cross those cultures and have cultural exchange when you have like the anime community in the US and then you have like Japan. Like it seems like people are eager to be like, it seems like people in Japan are like, I want to learn more about the US. And it seems like people who are weebs in America want to learn more about Japan, and people are excited to cross these cultural boundaries in a humanizing way. But that's just not happening for Black people. You have this demonization of Black culture when it does come up. And then thus you have a demonization of Black people, and there's barely any representation. When it is, it's like, it's just racist, and it's like, it just bothers me. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know where I was going with that, but
well, I mean, I think you hit at the core of the issue and why we spent so much time sort of trying to flesh this out, because it really is like there are a lot of benefits, I think. Well, to anime in general, there's a reason why I like it. It's cool and fun. And there's like a lot of benefits to like this kind of cross-cultural connection between the US and Japan. And it would be nice if like everyone got to benefit from that and not just like people with light skin. That's a weird arbitrary cutoff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you had some examples here, like namely Avatar and Promised Neverland. So I'm a heathen. I have not seen Avatar yet. I will see it. I will.
Oh my gosh.
I promise. It is on the watch list. But I don't know. I wasn't an Avatar kid for some reason. Like all my friends were watching Avatar. I was like, eh. I also wasn't a SpongeBob kid. I was a weird kid. No, I didn't watch it, and I was
okay.
I think it was more like I never felt the impulse to like join in with my friends and like be curious as to what they were watching and so excited about.
Okay.
But I do like, I am like, I have working knowledge of Avatar. So we can, and I don't mind, especially if you want to do spoilers, we can. I don't mind too
I don't have any spoilers or anything. Especially knowing that you haven't watched it, I'm like, you need to watch it, so I'm not going to spoil it for you.
I do need to watch it.
That show changed my life. I'll just say that. Like, that show made me, good things about myself, the things I like about myself are because of that show.
That's really awesome.
I'll just say that. Anyways. But yeah, there's this character named Katara, and she's from the Water Tribe, and the Water Tribe, it's really interesting because like there's kind of this like general Orientalism that Avatar kind of like failed at. Like, I wish they hadn't been so like generic, but the Water Tribe's based off of Inuit people, like generally, and so they are like this tribe that has like a lot of brown people, or like they're actually all brown, and she's one of the main characters. She's a fully developed character, and as I was a kid, I was like, this is the only time I've seen just like a brown person just get to be a person. Because normally when you watch a show where there's a Black person, especially like this was like in the 2010s, like, oh yeah, when there's like a Black person, they're like, say what? Or like
the Black best friend trope.
Yeah, they just like they don't even like get to be a human. They're just there to be like, say what? Yeah. And that's their personality. And you're like, Jesus. Anyways, but like, Katara is not Black, but she was brown, and it was kind of like, well, that's close enough. And she was a human, and she didn't seem like she just got to be like this fully fleshed out human. And I was just like, that's amazing. I don't know. I guess that kind of goes back to the example of like, you kind of take what you can get, because again, she's not Black. But I wish that there was more media where it's like people like Black people are just get to have like their full humanity. Because it's like a lot of times when you watch shows and there is a Black person, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do because they're Black. Like, I don't know. And they just kind of like end up pushing them to the side.
It definitely feels like it's like written for white people, right? It's like written from the perspective of, it's like POV, you're a white person meeting a Black person for the first time, right? But it's like, well, I hope it's not the first time I'm meeting myself. Like, that'd be a little creep.
Yeah, it's super cringy. But yeah, Avatar was like, I was like, wow, there's a brown person and she's just a person. I don't know. So that's an example. I also consider Avatar to be in the anime family. Oh yeah, I'll fight you.
Oh no, you don't have to fight me. Like, okay. Listen, I think,
sorry, I think
Steven Universe is an anime. Like, I unironically think Steven Universe is an anime, and as an explanation, it's because I think anime is, if you try and define anime as like things made in Japan, you kind of run into problems, because more and more anime production is made like globally. So like more and more things are like they're like key animated in Japan, but like in between is done in like Korea. There are like some things that are like productions between like Netflix and like some anime studio, and then it's like, well, so you can't like say anime is like just things made in Japan. So I think a better explanation is like it's more like an artistic movement that is like centered around Japan, but there's anime happening in other places based on like art style, like story structure and things like that. And like Teen Titans, Avatar are like, to me, I think definitely like part of that movement, even if they were developed in a place that is not this. Like, if you want to say like modernism or like romanticism was like an artistic movement that started in like England, if there was like an American romantic artist, you wouldn't say like, oh well, that's not romanticism because the person was not in England. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. I don't quite get Steven Universe though, but I definitely get like Attack on Titan and Avatar.
Yeah, I think Steven Universe more for like story structure, I think, than art style. It's kind of I will let people yell at me for that in the comments. It's fine. I'll take it. I understand why you're mad.
I'm not mad. I came off really aggressive though.
Not just like the people in the comments.
Okay. With the Avatar thing, I was like, I'll fight you, and you're like, oh no, I agree, and I was like, oh, whoops. Like, oh man, I was like this is like side note. I was at an anime convention and I like talked with someone about this for like 3 hours one time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, it was.
I don't know.
heated.
It's just, even if you don't like agree with like my description of like anime as like a movement, you have to at least admit that saying anime is all cartoons made in Japan is like not helpful.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like not useful. Or like if you take I don't know, have you heard of like Panty and Stocking?
That's literally what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, Panty and Stocking is made specifically with the intention of looking like a Western cartoon.
Yeah.
So it's like it almost like it doesn't follow like even it doesn't follow like any of like the convention. It doesn't follow many of the conventions of like anime anyway. Like it inherits from like an entirely different artistic tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, so it'd be weird to say this, but it's like Japanese in parentheses Western animation, right? And we can say like American in parentheses anime. Like you can like apply different locations. Like, okay, well,
yeah.
I think we've gotten the point. I haven't seen Promised Neverland either, but people keep telling me it's bad.
Really? I liked the first season. I just started watching the second season. And I'm not.
People
as
tell me
captivated.
the second season is bad.
Ah, dang. Yeah, it's because I just started watching it and I was like, this doesn't feel as interesting. And I was like, please be good. Because a lot of times second seasons that's when things kind of go downhill.
Yeah, I think it had like production problems. They like cut corners. They like skip things from the source material. They committed all of the mistakes.
Sins.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely the first season I thought was very captivating. But yeah, there's this character, so I won't have any spoilers or anything, but just the premise, like there's like these kids and they stay at this orphanage kind of place, and it's a very Western style, like it's very Western style where it's like just like, I don't know, like a nice cottagey place, and even the main character's name is Emma. Like they all have very Western names, but they're all little kids and stuff, and so like they have these people taking care of them, and one of their names is Sister Crone, and she's a Black woman, and she looks like a Black woman too, like, because a lot of times, like even in the picture that you showed me, like Wonder Egg Priority, like the features of this person don't necessarily like look Black, but in this anime, like this person has like really full lips and a Black nose, and I was like, oh, this person's like drawn as a Black person and is an anime. I was like, that's really cool. But then, okay, this person's like, I'm trying not to like, yes! Okay, sorry. Exactly. Sorry, Mo Black just
It's
put
okay.
like a picture of it in the thing.
But now I know where to put the picture in the video, so it works out.
Yeah. That's it, and it's like, yeah, definitely in the manga, it's like even more dramatized because like whenever she's doing something creepy, her like it just like there's like this like dark overcast shadow on her face, and like her black features, it's so racist. Her black features, like just her like having black lips and having a black nose, like they're portrayed as being like creepy. It's like it's borderline minstreling, or like looking, or it looks like it reminds me of like some of like the weird like minstrel stuff that you see. It's not actually a person in blackface or something, but you know, it looks like that level of like racism. And it was so disappointing because I was like, oh, there's a black person who has like textured hair, and she has like these full lips, and she has a black nose. I was like, that is so cool. And then she's just like, she's weird as fuck, and she's super racist, and I was so disappointed because yeah, but luckily there's some other characters who are at least brown, and they just they're interesting characters. So it's like it was a little bit like, okay, but it's again, you take what you can get, and it's kind of another example of that. Yeah, she's kind of like, she's definitely also like basically like an expansion on the mammy, you know, archetype too. Like she's yeah, I don't know. That was disappointing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I get because I have seen some of the discourse on this, and one thing that I do get people saying is like, well, kind of, and I don't know if they realize what they're actually saying when they say this, but they get people saying like, well, if you want a character with big lips and stuff, and you want a character who's supposed to be like a villain and who's supposed to be creepy, then like, what else are they supposed to look like? Which just, to me that like says more about you than it does about anything else, because it just means like you cannot imagine black women being portrayed, or like even like when you think of a black woman in your mind with like full lips and stuff, like Krona is like what you see, right? There's this fan art that I found while I was looking for the other picture. It's like good. It's like, oh, that's a human, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it really doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be like the way it is.
Yeah,
Black. Like, it doesn't have to be the way it is.
Like, it does not have to be like this racist like depiction of someone who's basically like a modern version of a mammy. Like, it definitely doesn't have to be that. Like,
yeah, we I think and this is like part of like a larger, I think, like right-wing fantasy about Japan. Like, people think that like Japan is like this island that's like isolated from like the rest of the world, in which like it's not at all affected by like any other country or whatever. But like the truth of the matter is that because there are so few like black people in Japan, Japanese people learn about black people in large part like through us, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
like,
I feel like that's something I wish I had mentioned that earlier, because I think that's like a huge part.
Yeah.
Of this.
Yeah. So like these stereotypes, they're just like a repetition and a reflection of like things that like racists in the United States have made about black people. Like the mommy archetype that you mentioned, like it comes from like old US movies that screened in Japan.
Yeah.
A little bit of like a side tangent, but like the Protocols of Zion in Japan, actually it has like political influence, right? Like, it was imported into the country. It was I want to make sure I'm actually getting this right. Like, anti-Semitic, like white supremacist texts are like often imported into Japan and like translated, and people build political movements around them. Or like they were like pro-Trump stop the steal rallies in Japan, for example. They're like Japan is not like this island. It like, they get all our reactionary shit, and there's also a lot of leftists who like show solidarity with like Black Lives Matter and like feminism and stuff like that. It's a whole country, right?
Yeah.
So like when we see these like media depictions that are like eerily similar to media depictions of like Black people in the US, it's because that's where it comes from. It's like reproducing the same dynamic.
Yeah, it's reproducing so many negative Black stereotypes that has been like exported through US media. And I think it's I just think it's like really frustrating because a lot of that media, even if you're watching something like a rap video, like that media, this is why I like brought it up earlier, that media of gangster rap, that was heavily produced because I watched this documentary on it, and it's called Beyond Beats and Rhymes. But like basically, like hip hop, like there was like a lot of like different directions that it was going in, and those directions are still there. But then gangster rap became like very heavily popularized. And part of it was because if you're talking about like systemic oppression, that's not going to be something you can sell to white kids in the suburb, because that's not going to resonate with them, or they're going to like feel threatened by that. And so there was there's like this like kind of like intense like shift towards just trying to like really popularize gangster rap. And
like I got the money, I got the girls, etc., etc. And not we should really dismantle the carceral state because it ruins entire families. That doesn't really, I mean, if you just look at who owns the labels in the music industry, I can tell you it's not Black people.
Yeah, I mean, so like that media that's like being exported is again like very much just like has ties in with like capitalism and like what we can sell to white people. But again, it's not necessarily Black people like primarily being able to represent ourselves in the way that we would necessarily want to. I'm also not saying that like that gangster rap is also like necessarily bad either. It's just like that's kind of an instance where it's like there's kind of other things going on as well other than gangster rap, and we don't get to represent ourselves. It's kind of like this industry run by white people was like, okay, this is going to be the face of Black people because we want to sell this and it's marketable to white teenage boys. And it's not only marketable to white teenage boys, like that's a hugely exported media from the US. And so like there's just like all these things where it's like the media that people are getting, where the only contact they're having with Black people is like not like helpful in humanizing us. And it's frustrating because Black people actually have very little control over what gets massively produced about ourselves. Right. And then it just, a lot of that media just ends up perpetuating like racist stereotypes. And like, yeah, there's been a lot of like minstrelling was, and people viewing that was like very like common in Japan. So like there's like we kind of think is like minstrelling as just something that happened like in Jim Crow in the US, but Japanese people were watching that too. And so like you kind of have like this, you have this like kind of racist media being exported for like a very long time, and that's a lot of people's only idea of what Black people are, unfortunately. Yeah,
I really couldn't have said it better myself. I'm reminded a couple episodes ago we talked a little bit about oh no, I'm forgetting the name of the show. No, I really like this one. Wait, no. Okay. Spider Prison. It's not Durarara. Oh shit. No. Okay, wait, just give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds. Oh no, this is the most embarrassing thing. Because it's like honestly one of my Baccano. Holy shit. Okay, you haven't seen Baccano, but like Baccano's like
no, I've heard of it though.
Really, really, really good. Yeah, Baccano's really good, and I really liked it. And Rago's gonna be listening over this, like, and they're gonna be like, "How did he forget Baccano?" I'm sorry, but yeah, we talked about Baccano.
Wait.
Just a tad.
My Hero Academia.
Oh yeah, we can talk about Hiraka.
Wait, is that what it? Because it's like, hold on, I'm probably thinking of.
Well, the Japanese name for My Hero Academia is Boku no Hero Academia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Baccano is a different thing. Okay, yeah, Baccano is this show right here. But anyway, it's like a 1930s crime drama, and it's got like a really, really like heavy use of like jazz. It's like late 20s, like Depression era crime drama, right? And it's got really heavy use of like jazz and like swing and things. And it's like, it's overall, it's like a really high octane kind of adventure story with like a big, huge cast of characters, lots of blood, lots of intrigue, kind of special powers and things like that. The director is kind of known for that kind of sort of style. But like, there's like 2 like black characters in this entire cast, right? And it's like weird, because like the entire musical style that you're using for your anime is like black people made it.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't be there. Like if black people did not immigrate from the South to places like Chicago and New York and things like that, you wouldn't have the music that you're using. And also they were like a huge part of like the Depression and like the entire like cultural turmoil that like led to large gangs fighting each other in the streets. So like it's like super weird that there would just be no black people in a story like this. Like this isn't the case where you can say like, oh well, it was like made by Japanese people. Like no, it's about Americans. It's about our culture. Like why are we not like present in it? And like the answer is because it's based on like a lot of like mob boss movies that were made in the US. And those movies didn't have black people in them either, right? So it just kind of copied a lot of the problems like that those movies had onto this new thing, right? And it's like one of the easiest examples that I can think of just like a lot of the way anime talks about black people is just like upstream from like like downstream from like American like white supremacy.
Yeah, and it's like totally erases the existence of black people in something like, for example, like if something has like a heavy jazz soundtrack, you know, like that's like part of me is like, here's that, like I immediately was like, there's not going to be like 1930s, and even when you said jazz, I was like, I just know there's not going to be black people in it because just it's like guaranteed that like black people are just like erased. It's so sad because like black people are erased out of like our own history, like for like with jazz, for example, and like so many things, like rock and roll. Like I know this is not an anime related thing, but just rock and roll in general. Like I did not know that rock and roll was made by black people for like a really long time.
I didn't know until like I think maybe like high school or something. Yeah, I really thought Elvis came up with all those songs himself. I mean, that's what they told me.
I thought it was like the Beatles and like the Rolling Stones, and then I was like, it's like no, there's like Muddy Waters, and there's I don't even remember his name. I forgot like the very first like person who like died recently, who was like the person who like made rock and roll. But like that's what I'm saying. Like I can think of like way more white people than I think of black people, and black people made it. And it's just like there's so many things. Or like even like when you think of folk music, it's like I know so many white people are like, I'm gonna get back to my roots and I'm gonna play some folk, and it's like just the erasure of black people in that. Like the banjo is literally an African instrument, and it's like black people were making so much folk music and it just erased. Like nobody knows, and it just like if people knew, they probably wouldn't. You know, it's like, because like when you think of, this is like kind of a little bit of a rant, but like when you think of anime, you're like, people are like, Japanese people made that shit. And you know, like people are like offended when you even say like, hey, there's like, you know, Avatar's an American anime. People are like, no, only the Japanese, you know? But like, imagine if America like made, like just erased the history of like Japanese people making anime, and we're like, actually, we're gonna pretend like we made this.
Yeah, we're gonna pretend that Avatar was the first anime, actually.
And then like
there were none before then.
Yeah, it's the first one ever. And it's like people. That's basically what happened with Black Americans, like over and over and over and over again. Like that's why like I grew up being like, oh, black people must have not done that much, and it's like it's
right,
so
like people
depressing.
unironically believe that like black people really didn't contribute much. They were slaves, and then they were freed during the Civil War, and then they didn't do anything but like complain. But then they actively participate in the erasure that that leads them to that conclusion, right?
Yeah, but it's like
so frustrating.
If Black people actually got credit for like all the stuff we did, all the creative work and all the music, I think that would have really helped with the racism. I think it would have been helpful in humanizing. And I guess this does tie in back to anime and representation, because again, like it's this representation that's so humanizing. And again, it just is frustrating that Black people don't get to be represented even in the things that we have made. And then even when we are represented things we've made, it's controlled by like white companies, and it's not us in control of the narrative. It's so fucked.
Yeah, it is really, really frustrating. I think this is actually good for an episode, and we're nearing the end. I don't want to cut you off. Was there did you want to move into the conclusion, or did you have another thing you want to bring up?
Oh, I did want to mention like this is like not a good conclusion though. Well, like,
okay, you can mention it and then we can.
So like there's this like with Ghost in the Shell, this is like something that we're talking about like way later about like representation, but like in Ghost in the Shell, I thought that was just really fucked with Scarlett Johansson, where she's like white, and then all these Asian Americans were like, actually this is a Japanese person, so can you just get a Japanese person to play it? And then people in Japan were like, well, like she looks like the person in Ghost in the Shell, so like whatever. And like I just thought that whole controversy was like messed up, but it's kind of a lot to just go into at the end. But yeah, no,
okay. Why? I don't know. Like, why does Scarlett Johansson need to play her? I don't get it. I don't. Can you just not? There's like a really good College Humor video of like it's like Scarlett Johansson's like agent or whatever, and she wants to play a tree. She wants to play like, I don't know. She wants to be in like Huck Finn or something.
Nice. What's that called?
Let me see if I can find it. It's like College Humor Scarlet.
Oh, it's a College Humor one. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's like kind of backtracking, but that's like another like really prime example of how if you're an Asian American or if you're a Japanese American and you're watching Ghost in the Shell, even though that character is supposed to be a Japanese person, you're not going to see yourself in that person. Yeah. It's like, and that really sucks. It just sucks to like be like, I just want to see myself in something and I want other people to humanize me. And it's not going to happen. And so it's like, yeah, I don't know. You just kind of take what you can get. But
yeah,
that's kind of like my...
Just like the people who are all upset about like blackwashing and things like that are suddenly less upset, you know, when it's a white person doing it. It's almost as if they're just anti-black. Okay, it is because they're just anti-black. I'm not gonna play coy.
Right. Yeah, that was kind of that. I don't know. I can't think of any closing thoughts. I'm really bad at wrapping things up.
It's okay. I want to say, I want to thank you for like taking the time to talk to me, because it was really illuminating. Because there's some things that I kind of feel like with my like being black and like watching anime, there are like some things that I sort of felt like alone in and like experiencing and thinking about. like I'm really happy that I found someone else who like looks for the light skin thing, because I was like with the girls, because like I was on Reddit once and I was like mentioning it and like everyone thought I was like super weird and they were all surprised. They're like, what, really? I'm like, yeah, in every couple the girl has lighter skin. Like,
I know, that bothers me. People are like, I've never noticed. And I'm like, lucky you that you don't live your life with this shit being on your mind all the time, where you're like constantly like analyzing like the shade of people's skin because that's what's happened with you. Must be nice.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. Maybe I'll send you. We were watching Hyoka. It's like a romance. We didn't like it that much, but I'm trying to find like trying to find a good one that's not fan art. Like, see, can you see it?
Yes.
Right, like, yeah. And like every couple is like this. Like, why? So I don't know. It's just this is supposed to be rap, but I just want to say it's like it's really nice to actually like talk to someone else who like has like at least a similar enough experience with things to like actually see it. And I don't have to like explain myself and justify why are you using the eyedropper tool to compare. All right. So I guess if you want to plug some of the things that you're working on.
So on my channel there's a video on whiteness coming out at some point, and it's gonna be good, so you should watch it when it comes out.
Yeah, and your channel and probably your Twitter as well will be in the description and things. Okay,
cool. It's Professor Flowers. Woo! Yeah. Check it out. It's pretty cool stuff. It's pretty great.
It's amazing. And this has been Mo Black. Thanks so much for listening, and we will be back next time with more guests. Probably, definitely. We still have a roster to go through. Okay, bye.